Good morning. My name is Esther Walker, and I'm the research manager here at Outride. And it's my pleasure to welcome you all to the 6th Annual Outride Summit. Thank you all for being here today. We've been so inspired by the positive support and all the excitement that's already happening online in the Whova app for the conference, all before we've even officially started, so thank you. I'd also really like to thank Specialized for sharing their time and their talent to support the Outride team in putting this event together, and for providing us with a space filled with smiling faces and fast internet so we can make sure that this event is a success. This is really quite a shift from my usual kitchen office Zoom, and so I really hope it helps all of you in that virtual world feel a little bit closer to the action. We really, truly appreciate the partnership and can't thank you enough for helping us really amplify this important work. All right. Over the next 2 days, you will hear about the latest research outlining the impact that cycling has had not only on our brains and on our bodies, but also on our communities. You'll hear from local grassroots organizations, programs, educators, and national nonprofits and the role that they've played in supporting youth health, increasing access, and building community through cycling, as well as what they've learned along the way. But we really want to hear from you all too. So join us for the interactive workshops and community discussions to connect and learn from the wide array of attendees that are here today. There's an impressive range of people signed up from the bike industry, to local government, to healthcare, to education, all here to share and learn about solutions to support the next generation through cycling. So to be sure to check out the afternoon workshop agenda, jump into the Summit app called Whova, and make a new friend or a collaborator. Like many of you, we at Outride have seen and heard the countless ways that the bike can transform our lives. And we believe in this so deeply that we are committed to breaking down barriers to increase access so that all youth can safely experience the joy, the fun, and the health benefits that come with riding a bike. We've partnered with over 225 schools to support cycling education and have granted over $1.5 million to over 170 youth-focused organizations around the country. But to really understand where we are now, it helps to take a look at where we came from. It all started 10 years ago when our co-founder, Mike Sinyard, who has ADHD, wondered whether his feelings of increased focus after a ride were just limited to him or whether also others experienced this phenomenon, and if there was something more scientific to back it up. In the years since, we've learned so much, not only about the power of cycling to support those with ADHD, but to support all youth and the challenges that they're facing.
There's a lot of things happening that can't really be controlled. Most of the time my mind is just racing. If I had to sit still for a while, like if I couldn't do something with my hands or my feet, it would go downhill very quickly. I'm Lucy, I'm in 8th grade, and yeah.
I'm Esther Walker. I oversee the research programs at Outride. EEG measures the electrical activity of large groups of neurons in the brain. Many teens with ADHD have different patterns of brain activity than their peers, which may contribute to challenges in focusing on tasks like homework. After riding a bike, the pattern of their brain activity can shift, leading to better focus and attention. But it goes further. Cycling and physical activity lead to profound changes in our brains. Symptoms of anxiety, depression, and ADHD may all be improved through cycling.
If I was riding my bike, then I'd be paying attention to more what was happening around me. It just clears it all, and it gives you like a peace of mind for a little bit.
10 years ago, we launched this program. Now Outride impacts over 50,000 students per year through the transformative power of the bike. New advances in research and technology help us learn about the specific ways that cycling lights up the brain, and the benefits cycling has not only for attention and focus, but also for mood and overall well-being. And with that, I'd like to pass it on to Mike Sinyard, the founder of Specialized and the co-founder of Outride, to share why Outride means so much to him and why this work is needed now more than ever. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Esther. And thank you all for joining. And I know we have a lot of folks joining virtually, so thank you very much for your interest. This is something that we're all very passionate about. And, you know, one of the things, if you look today, this is something a question that we all ask. Are we over-medicating our kids? You know, is medication the first line for improvement? And I would always say, pedals, not pills, as the first line to help kids. And, you know, because we all need to move. And it's really powerful. And, you know, there's no doubt we are absolutely in a mental health crisis around the world. But I think particularly in America, we are in a mental health issue, and it's no doubt. And over-medicating the kids is not the solution. And in fact, anybody who reads, you know, the news right now, you can see that one of the biggest crises, and I'm passionate about this one, is the opioid crisis. It is unbelievable. And it took a while, but it's here now, the opioid crisis, where all the drug companies are being sued. One of my fears, I put this headline 2027, that Big Pharma is going to be in trouble again. Parents are going to realize, oh my God, we over-medicated our kids. How could we have done that? What were we thinking? You know, we love our kids. We only want to do the best thing for our kids. But yet we did this. And I know this from firsthand experience of seeing that around. So it was 10 years ago, as Esther was saying, that we started Outride. And one of the reasons we started Outride, I read a headline by a kid, college kid, who said, "Writing is my Ritalin." And I go, oh my God, that's me. And that's thousands of people, right? Then I finally connected it. And I thought, oh my God. And I called this one doctor at Harvard Medical, and I go, why isn't there more information on this? He goes, well, there's no drug company to support it. And I go, what would it take? And of course, like a lot of things, you think, oh, this will be really simple to prove, right? 10 years later, here we are. But that was really the idea, is to prove it and just to make it like a fact. That's what it is, right? And we know it. So we started that journey. And it's been a long journey. As Esther was saying, we have quite a few kids going through the program, about 40,000. And when we started in the beginning, it was very clear it was working, because you could hear, you could see it in the kids' eyes, just like Lucy. You could see what they're saying, how powerful that was. You could see it from what the teachers say and what the parents say. It was obvious. And it also showed up in the test results. So we said, let's go further. And then over the last number of years, we worked with Stanford to really prove this. And what's powerful now, you'll see today, and you saw up there with Esther, that the brain imaging that we can do now, we can prove that it lights up your brain. Absolutely proves. And it's kind of like, here's the brain before, and here's your brain on bike, right? And how powerful is that? So it's something that I think now you'll see with the work that's done, how we can really prove this. So my personal goal in it was just that, is to prove it and to make it like a known fact that parents would know of the things to do. And I think we have done that the fact is there. And, you know, it's interesting. So I have ADHD. Anybody who works with me knows that, right? And a lot of other people. And you think, and so the bike really helped me. And then you also read about other people, you know, famous people that got a lot of things done. I don't put myself like that. But if you think about Steve Jobs, ADHD, a lot of behavior things. What if he was medicated? You wouldn't have that Apple company, right? What about Elon Musk? What if he was medicated? Then what? Right? You could go on and on. And so sometimes in life, the things that make us different are our superpowers, absolute superpowers, right? And we just got to channel it. It's a superpower. In fact, a dear friend who does our branding work for 30 years, Rich Silverstein, he has ADHD quite bad. You could tell when you talk to him. But he has a superpower. He's in the Art Hall of Fame with Walt Disney, been the agency of the decade. He's really quick. And the bike is his medication, is his superpower, and along with so many others. I want to just share, I'm so excited. But it's so great, all this, and it's just so obvious, right? It's just so obvious. And this is what we can bring to the world, right? And I would say, you know what? It's not about specialized, right? It's not about the bike industry. It's about mental health. And the bike is better than other forms. Why? Because the sensory of balance, right? And the Zen-like rotation of the pedals. So here's Rich Silverstein.
Hi, I'm sorry I can't be here in person, but I am Rich Silverstein, and I'm co-chairman of Could Be Silverstein and Partners, an advertising agency that has won a bunch of accolades, and I have helped Mike for 30 years to market brand Specialized. I'm very proud of that. I have ADHD, I'm left-handed, and I have dyslexia. I tell you, it's a superpower. If I had taken drugs when I was a kid, I wouldn't be here today. So please help. Thanks.
That's great. Yeah, when I joke with Rich said, oh, if my parents would have given me medication, I would have probably been selling shoes now, right? But really, it's a superpower. And so I'm really excited about this. Thank you for all your interest. And we want to make sure this is really known to the world, right? Totally known, because parents and people, we all want to do the right thing. And I wanted to introduce a very key person who has led the research of this at Stanford. And we wouldn't be where we are without this person. Well, those people too. But I was Allan Reiss. Allan Reiss is the head of psychiatry and behavioral science at Stanford, and he's been with us for the whole journey, and he believes very much, right? So we're going to put on Allan right now, but the whole Stanford team has really been incredible in this. In fact, when we first went there, we were talking about it, and they're like, yeah, okay, yeah, maybe it's interesting. And then he called back later and goes, hey, this is really something. We go, yes, it is. So it's been great, and the journey has been good. I'm going to let Allan speak here. Thank you, Allan.
Thanks, Mike. I'm going to first do something I don't ordinarily do, which is apologize before I do something. I've been fighting off an upper respiratory tract infection for the whole week. Otherwise, it'd be wonderful to be down there and hanging out with Esther and Mike and the Outride group. But I figured I'd probably not come down and share my viruses with you, and instead do it from home with my jellyfish. I want to just take the opportunity to say, at Stanford, we're really grateful for the support that Outride has given us over the years, and it's really been a major source of not only financial inspiration, but motivation for us to continue to do work in the area of what we call exercise neuroscience. And I also want to thank Mike for the promotion. I mean, he said I'm head of psychiatry and behavioral sciences. I have to tell my chairperson now that I've replaced her in that position at Stanford. So thank you, Mike. I'm going to show you today a video that we made about a year ago, a little over a year ago, and that I'm going to show you again, even though we did show it last year, because it is really captures the type of work that we're doing at Stanford in terms of real people, real children, real adolescents who are participating in our study, where we're looking at how cycling affects the brain in real time, not just measuring before and after, but in real time. So let's go ahead and play the video, and then I'll have a few slides to show after. Okay, it's going to be silent for a few seconds, but you just get an idea. It's a girl riding outside in our beautiful Stanford campus. And here comes some music, I hope. There. So what you can see is one of our research staff helping this girl get our brain imaging device on prior to the bike ride. And one of the most amazing things about this technology, and this is not cheap technology, by the way, we're really lucky that we were able to get a grant from the NIH to get this $600,000 system that allows us to measure brain activity much in the same way you would have an MRI, but not lying in a scanner. Here you're out in real life. There are some constraints, of course. You got to wear a backpack or a side pack with this device, carry it with you, but otherwise, you're in the real world. We're getting it set up. This is not EEG. This is much more precise, where we can actually look at the precise areas of the brain in terms of what's active when. So now we're calibrating to ensure that all the channels work. This cap feels much like a shower cap, and our collaborators at Outride and Specialized helped us design a helmet that you could still wear with this brain imaging technique that's called near-infrared spectroscopy, functional near-infrared spectroscopy. And if this seems like requires some real effort to get set up, it's because it does. But once it's up and running, we are up and running, and we are up and running in the real world. And here we go. That's the building just outside our research lab. Our ability to measure brain activity while our research participants on the bike is wireless. Isn't that fun, being able to actually see your own brain activity? That's what she's doing right there at rest, and she's off. We have a nice little course there. And there's the brain. Again, this is during cycling exercise, not after, not before, during. In our current research study, we have our participants ride for about 20 minutes. And for reasons I'll explain to you when I show you some slides, we also have them ride inside. There you go. There's the brain at work. Different colors representing different activity levels. One of the things I'd point out to you is that it's not just exercise. It is someone who is out in nature. So that's one thing. In the natural world, she has to maintain her balance. She has to maintain her spatial orientation in relation to her environment. She has to coordinate her movements. And she's sensing the world around her visually, hearing, smell, proprioception, where am I in space, rebalancing muscles really at the millisecond level, which is a process that people are just not aware of, but it occurs very well. And that's why people talk about, once you learn how to ride a bike, right? You can always ride it because you've encoded that ability. Now, it might look like she's out and no one's around her, but actually in our study, we have a lot of people. We have several people out on the course, keeping track of our participants at various stations. And Stephanie Van Riper, who's Dr. Van Riper, will tell you about this. Okay, so let's get into our slides. That's our video. The title of my very short talk today, Exercise, Brain Health, and Evolution. Let's go to the next slide. So why is exercise important for health? This is, as they say, no pun intended, a no-brainer. And we've known about this for a long, long time. Improving your heart health, your vascular health, your pulmonary or lung health, bone and muscle health, improving metabolic health. Exercise for people who have type 2 diabetes is critical often. Many of you don't know, a lot of work has come out recently about exercise lowering the risk of many cancers, most cancers. So someone's asking, can we make slides full screen? And reducing pain. Also, exercise has a known effect. And these are evidence-based findings, by the way. These are not in dispute. These are well known. And then next slide. Hopefully, the biggest one is improving brain health. Okay, next slide. A little posters from the CDC. If you want kind of a cool paper, it's a little sciencey, a little neurosciencey, but it's got some great illustrations by Reiss and Alexander in a journal called Trends in Neurosciences, which is a very good journal. Came out in 2017, talked about why there is this link between evolution, brain health, exercise, and cognition. If you go to the next slide, you can see that there are both acute, or what we say immediate effects of exercise, as well as long-term effects. So what does exercise do? And I'll get to cycling in just a second. Exercise requires you to use your motor system, and control that motor system in very precise ways. It requires you to use your spatial memory and navigation. Now, this is the images of a guy out running, but think about what cycling actually does. It probably requires more spatial navigation, balance than running does. Executive function, decisions and planning. Am I going to turn right or left? How am I going to stay upright? Should I make that, go down that pathway there? The sensory and attention systems we already talked about. And you can see there are acute effects, so right away effects of aerobic exercise. It increases these trophins, neurotrophins, which are important for brain development and function, increases perfusion or blood flow, increases hippocampal neurogenesis. That's a critical area of your brain for learning and memory. So it increases your ability to make new cells. It increases your ability to make connections between those cells or synapses, et cetera, et cetera. So these have effects on cognitive function, what we call multitasking, executive function, and these are not in dispute. These are well-known facts. So if we were having this conversation 25 years ago, I'd say the data are light, but not now. They are in and they are not in dispute. And then you can see there are lifetime effects. So people who exercise lifetime have these significant and beneficial effects on how their brain develops, how the connections are maintained, and how the brain functions. Next slide. Okay, next. So let's talk about, go back. Let's talk about evolution a little bit. So here's a funny little cartoon about human Homo sapien evolution, showing it's very linear from ape to hunched over human working at the computer. That's not the way human evolution actually works. If you go to the next slide, or next picture. This is a little bit more dystopian view of linear evolution, which hopefully will not come to fruition. But go to the next slide. In truth, human evolution is very non-linear. And these are many of the species that gave rise to and overlap with and competed with us. Next slide. Homo sapiens at currently our current iteration of human, but there have been lots of previous iterations, again, that contributed to or competed. Next slide. Here's something that really kind of blew my mind when I came across this article. So, you know, humans migrated out of Africa about 50, 60,000 years ago. But we are a very, very new species to the Earth when you consider how old the Earth is. And if you think our human brain evolution ended, you know, millions of years ago, or even hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years ago, you're not right. Human brain evolution is occurring probably even to this day. Here, the slide is showing that brain shape has been changing significantly, even up to tens of thousands of years ago. So we are not a static evolutionary species in terms of how our brain develops, and exercise probably plays an important role in that. So if you go to the next slide, should be getting close to the end. What are my take-home messages? So exercise that utilizes our evolved brain systems developed for more effective hunting, gathering, foraging may be the most effective for improving and sustaining brain health. I don't have time to get into the whole, you know, human evolution, hunter, gatherer, forager, et cetera, et cetera. Many of you have probably heard about this, but we have evolved brain systems that are tried and true, and you know, didn't develop necessarily to play video games. Not that I have anything against video games, even though I didn't let my kids play them when they were growing up, much to their unhappiness. But these systems, if we utilize those systems in exercise, that engage hunting, gathering, foraging systems, these are probably the most effective for improving and sustaining brain health. And the next, what are those systems? The exercises that engage these systems utilize a combination of, we've already talked about this, spatial orientation, where's my body in space, and navigation, where am I turning? Body awareness, can I keep my coordination? What do I need to do? Memory, motor control, balance, coordination, and executive function. Planning your trip, sequencing, your flexibility, inhibition, etc. And the next slide. What type of exercise does this sound like to you? So this is one of my natural affiliations with Outride. So next slide. Of course, it sounds like cycling, right? This is exactly what cycling does. And this is a different girl wearing our pack on a bike, wearing our special helmet, wearing our functional near infrared spectroscopy system. But you know what, next slide. Oh, by the way, this is just showing our system is very portable. You can wear it in a backpack, a hip pack, and you can measure most, if not all, of the surface of the brain activity from the entire cortex if you want. Next slide. But there's something else that's really great in cycling, which is you can do it in groups. So I just want to say one caveat here, these people aren't wearing helmets. It's something I'm very passionate about. Every year, a couple people, you know, have serious injuries on the Stanford campus because they're not wearing helmets. So always wear your helmets. But doing it in groups, in the natural environment, if you think that talking about the natural environment is kind of California, Santa Cruz, incense type thing, it's not. There are more and more studies, data-driven studies that show that being in the natural environment and more recently exercising in the natural environment amplifies that positive effect on those brain systems even more. These are data-driven, non-dispute. Now, next slide, just as one last caveat, we are doing this study both outside, as we showed you in the video, as well as inside on a fixed cycle, just so we can compare the two and understand how the natural environment really affects the brain. And I'm going to stop there. And again, thank Outride for giving me the opportunity to talk to you and give my regrets for not being there in person. And I hope you have a wonderful morning and day.
Thank you, Dr. Reiss, for your important and exciting work. We really look forward to learning more at the next session.